Oi, fellow comrades, it is Squidtard here, and welcome back to another prediction for the 2023 college football season. First things first, I am sharing this house with people other than myself, unfortunately, so if I sound a little bit quiet at times, that's the reason. So let's go ahead and get into the prediction today. We are doing the Clemson Tigers. Now, in case you don't notice, there is a little notification down there. It says new college football server in the description. That means, in case you don't know already, and in case you don't know what Discord is, that's what that is. I have a Discord server for college football people, so go ahead and hop on in and interact with the Squidtard community and people outside of that community. It's open to anybody, and you can hop on in there and talk about college football. We have a grand old time in there, and yeah, you should totally jump on in on that. Anyway, let's roll into the prediction today. So Clemson, the Clemson Tigers. What are we to expect out of them this season? Well, last year for Clemson, while it wasn't particularly a season to remember, it wasn't a bad season overall. They finished out 11-3, won the ACC, and lost the Orange Bowl against a particular team, which I don't even know. I don't know who that is. Couldn't figure out, you know. Anyway, though, it was not a bad year for them. Now, they did have a couple losses which threw them off. They had the Notre Dame loss, the blowout loss on the road. People thought that was going to knock them out of the playoffs, and then they were definitely knocked out of the playoffs following a home loss to South Carolina. Losing at home and losing that winning streak at home was definitely a detrimental thing for Clemson fans, but having that happen to your rival, your big rival, in-state rival, to be specific, is something I could not even imagine. I couldn't even fathom the pain of that. But then again, we went on a streak where we lost to Vanderbilt for 3 years, so I do kind of feel that. Anyway, was not a bad year overall for Clemson. And going into this season, we've seen some changes, particularly with some of the schemes that Dabo Swinney has had whipped up. He actually changed his coaching staff this time, brought in a new offensive and defensive coordinator, switched up these schemes, is switching to an air raid style offense, which I find the most interesting part of that. We're going to be seeing how that plays out. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the type of play style to bring out in that format. As usual, they didn't really do much through the transfer portal. Dabo mainly relied on the talent that he's already brought in. Cade Klubnik coming in for his sophomore year. Got, I think, one start total last year. That was in the Orange Bowl. He'll be taking over for DJ Uyagungale. He had some great performances. In fact, pretty much bailed them out of some of these other games like the NC State game, the Wake Forest game, games like that where they absolutely needed to rise up when DJ Uyagungale was not able to perform. And he came in there and he basically brought them back into the game and got the win for him. So he definitely has potential where it's necessary. He can throw the ball. He's a mobile quarterback. He's great at running the ball. He has a lot of potential and a lot of feats that you probably compare to other ACC quarterbacks from the past, say for Lamar Jackson. Now, going into this year, there's no certainty whether or not he's going to play as good as like a Trevor Lawrence or something like that, or Deshaun Watson. You probably won't get anything like that. But Cade Klubnik is good enough to make some of these big plays necessary. Will Shipley coming in for his junior year as the running back. Played a great year last season, and I'm looking for him to be one of the better ACC running backs this season. They're bringing back pretty much most of their team in terms of, they don't have many people transferring out this year. Most of them are staying with the Clemson Tigers. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not this team can do better or worse than last year. Maybe somewhere in between. We'll have to find out. The over-under has them set at 9.5. So anywhere of 10 and above, that's setting the over on them. So let's go ahead and roll into the schedule and see what we've got here. So this is a tough one. This one is a road game. You're traveling on the road to play Duke to start the season. So very interesting game right here to start out the season playing against Duke. They're going to be a tough opponent. Duke is a team. They're not like the Duke that we've seen in years before. They have a very good team this year, I think. I think they'll be in contention of playing for the ACC championship because of how good they are. They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of potential, and I think we're going to see a lot of that. Riley Leonard is probably one of my favorite quarterbacks heading into this season. He's got a lot of potential. We'll see a lot of that in this game. It's going to be hard fought. And for Cade Klubnik's first start in the in the 2023 season, this is kind of a rough way to go at it. So with that being said, I think they upset y'all. I think you start out their season with a loss on the road at Duke. They're going to be a very good team this year. And, the way things play out with the schedule, that is a very tough way to start out for Cade Klubnik. So that being said, I think you start out with a loss there. Disagree, agree, doesn't really matter. That's what I think. So going on to the next one, you got Charleston Southern. This should be a win. And I don't know why the text extends out far beyond the graphic there. Big error on the editor right there. Nonetheless, that's an easy win for Clemson. Heading into the next game, Florida Atlantic, same thing here. No point really discussing that one. There's no way they're going to get upset. Right? College football is not a game where people get upset. Okay, well, next up, a big one. This is probably the biggest matchup of the season right here. It's been hyped up for ages, and it's going to be the game of the week here. Florida State playing on the road, going into Death Valley against Clemson. So Florida State, in a lot of people's minds, is set up to be the champion of the ACC this season. There's a lot of hype in this team. They're bringing back the most out of any team in the Power 5. Jordan Travis, kind of a lot like Cade Klubnik, a super mobile quarterback with a really high potential level. I see a lot of, I see a great matchup here. This is going to be a very fun matchup. Potentially could go into overtime if we see fit. But, with the things playing out with Florida State, I could definitely see them getting the win over Clemson. However, I'm just going to go ahead and give the win to Clemson here. I think they hold on. I think their defense is tough enough to hold back Florida State for long enough to get the win at home. A huge win for Florida State, and also proves that Clemson is still nothing to be messed with. So I think that'll set the tone for the season going forward. The next game, on the road at Syracuse, and while I don't think they'll be a bad team this year, considering what they were last season, I do think they won't be good enough to beat Clemson, even if it is a road game. I don't see an upset here. Considering the circumstances and considering who you play after this. The next game here, Wake Forest at home, losing Sam Hartman and is a huge detrimental loss to this Wake Forest team. I don't really see them recovering from that this year. I still think their offense will be decent. However, I don't think it'll be enough to compete with Clemson, so give me a win for them. And now you can start to see that Clemson, things are starting to really kind of roll out for them. They're sitting at 5-1 heading into their bye. And then after that, traveling out on the road, going to Hard Rock Stadium to play the Miami Hurricanes. So, of course, Miami, I do not think they'll be nearly as bad as they were last year. While Mario Cristobal is, he's doing a lot of things there. He's bringing in a great team, bringing in some really good recruits. They're going to make some noise in the ACC this season. And while I don't think they're going to be in contention for the championship game, they will be a team to watch. But with the bye week to prepare for this team, I don't know if Miami has one. I don't think they do. I looked through their schedule before, so I know the circumstances on that. So I'm going to go ahead and say that the win goes to Clemson here. I think they get the win over Miami. Could be a tough one, but with the bye to prepare, I think Cade Klubnik gets the job done and gets the dub over the Canes. The next one here, another road game on the road at NC State. They're going to be a lot like Wake Forest this season. I think they're going to take a steady decline backwards. I don't think they'll be terrible, nothing like that, but I don't think they'll be in contention for the ACC. I thought they were last year, and they let me down. And with nothing really showing that makes me think that they're going to do it this year, I have to ride with Clemson and say that they'll get the job done here as well. Now, this could potentially be a trap game, though. I do see that as a possibility because the next game here just so happens to be Notre Dame at home. They beat you last season. They didn't just beat you, they dominated you last season. It was 28-0 heading into the fourth quarter. But anything's a possibility. Things change in college football. The job that Marcus Freeman has done there in 1 year is definitely great. He's recruiting really good. I think we'll see a lot of things good from Notre Dame this season. I think we'll see some improvement overall in terms of consistency. However, in this game, I got to take the home team again. I think Clemson survives against Notre Dame, kind of like the Florida State game here. I think Clemson does just enough to get the win over Notre Dame at home. It's a tough environment to play in. That's why they have that big win streak. Also, other than them being really good and having that ACC schedule to back them up. But nonetheless, I do think they hold on against Notre Dame, get the win over them, and advance to 8-1. The next one up here, Georgia Tech at home. Brent Key doing some great things there. I think Georgia Tech overall is going to be a little bit better this season. Maybe contending for a bowl. I could definitely see that. If they become a lot more consistent this year, I do think Georgia Tech could be a formidable opponent. But against Clemson, I just think that they're the more talented team. They're more well-rounded. They have the home field advantage. Just don't see Georgia Tech really rallying up the troops good enough to get the win over Clemson in this matchup. And now these last two games, the Carolinas. North Carolina to start out with, the Tar Heels, going to be a really good offense this year, backed up by Drake May, a Heisman potential quarterback right there. He almost made it last season. He could very well do it this year if the year calls good enough. But playing on the road against Clemson is going to be tough for them to do so. I think Clemson has the defense good enough to shut down the North Carolina offense and get, I don't think they'll shut them down completely. North Carolina is going to get some scores. They're going to put up some points. However, I think Clemson, with Cade Klubnik at this point in the season, will have the potential and will have the enough experience to know exactly what to do in this situation. And with the defense as suspect as North Carolina, I can't see them getting the upset over Clemson at home. So give me Clemson to get the win over North Carolina. And now you're sitting at 10-1 heading into the final game of the season against your hated rival, South Carolina. They beat you at home last season. Now you're traveling out on the road to play them. In my head, I'm thinking that this is going to be a road matchup for, of course it's going to be a road matchup. Who am I thinking? I think it's going to be a night game for South Carolina. And I'm not basing this whole prediction on whether or not, like the time. It doesn't matter what time it's going to be. I think this is going to be a great game. South Carolina really improving this season, I think, overall. I like Spencer Rattler. I think he's going to have a great offense to back him up. They got transfer Trey Knox coming in. And, South Carolina uses their tight ends really well. They did last season under Shane Beamer. And now with year 3 under the belt, I think South Carolina overall will be a great team. I actually predicted them yesterday. Go check that out if you haven't already. But in this game, I think they spoil your season again. I think you lose this one on the road. South Carolina, a very good team. I think this will be a very well-fought game. And even if it's not South Carolina, I think it'll be somebody else on this schedule. Nonetheless, I have Clemson going 10-2 above the over-under. So that's a good sign at least. But I don't think I really don't think this team is good enough, in my opinion, to make the playoffs. I do, however, think that they have the potential to get a 10-win season. They'll probably be around this level. Maybe they do get a win over Duke early in the season, or maybe they get the win over South Carolina early. If they win the rest of these games, who knows? And I shouldn't say that they're not good enough to make the playoffs. With a win, with a resume like this and only one loss in the ACC, that's probably good enough to make the championship game, I'd imagine. And by that, if you win that, maybe some things happen and, I don't know, you could still make the playoffs. But nonetheless, my prediction stands at 10-2, and that's final. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have any requests for me to do any other predictions after this point, just leave a like or a comment down below. Or always make sure to subscribe to Squidtard Sports if you haven't already. I'm doing a lot of these videos, as many as I can before the season begins, which we're under like 50 days before it actually comes to a beginning. Super excited for it, and I'm sure you guys are as well, because we all get to yell at the TV or celebrate depending on how our team does. So that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you give this video a like, sub to the channel, and as always, power to Tard Area.